What did the acorn say when he grew up? Gee, I'm a tree. Geometry. Get it? Anyways. Now let's go ahead and review how to name angles because I'm noticing some issues with it, even though you did learn this in 6th grade and we covered it in September. But let's do it one more time. First of all, when you're naming 3 angles, you'd like to use 3 points. Now, the vertex point is always listed in the middle. If there's only one obvious angle in the figure, then it can also be named just using the vertex point. In the examples in this video, we're pretty much dealing with just the one vertex point. So that's the easy way to name angles. In class, we're going to practice using more 3 vertex points. So just as an example, I'd like you to write the name for the angle marked at right 3 different ways. So I marked this angle right here. One way you can name it is you don't start at the vertex, you start at another point. B, then the vertex, A, then C. BAC is one way to write this angle. You can go in the other direction. CAB. CAB. And then finally, the easy way, which is angle A. The main thing is to make sure that the vertex point is in the middle for all of the angle names. If it's on the edge, you did not name the angle correctly. Now we're going to be naming some corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are in the same position in polygons with an equal number of sides. A corresponding angle matches the other angle. All right. So what we're going to do is list some pairs of corresponding angles here. And I like to use color to mark the matching sides. So you can see C goes with G. I don't know if these are congruent, so I'm not saying they, that's why we just have corresponds here. R goes with E, H goes with O, and S goes with M. Now I'm going to use the easy angle naming for this. So angle C and angle G, or I could have said angle RCS and angle EGM. Angle R and angle E. Another way to say that is angle CRH and angle GEO. Notice how you start on matching vertices. Then we have angle H and angle O and angle S and angle M. Corresponding sides are similar. They are in the same position in polygons with an equal number of sides. So corresponding sides should be between the matching angles. For me, the easiest way to keep track of what goes with what is to use the angles. So I've left the angles marked here so we can use them again. And we're going to do the corresponding sides. So here's one side, CR, yellow to green, so yellow to green. So CR and GE are corresponding sides. Then I'm going to go green to blue and green to blue. That would be RH and EO. Blue to magenta and blue to magenta. HS and OM. And then magenta to yellow and magenta to yellow. SC and MG. Congruent polygons are basically figures that have the same shape and the same size. So same size and the same shape, not just the same shape. 2 polygons are congruent if and only if their corresponding angles and sides are congruent. So if I say this triangle is congruent to that triangle, that means everything has to be congruent. One of the angles that goes with the other has to be congruent. The sides have to match. Everything has to match perfectly. The congruent statement says that 2 polygons are congruent by listing the names of both polygons. So normally in a problem, I'm going to say, we might ask you to write the congruent statement. Tell us how is the polygon congruent to the other. And you need to have the order of the vertices to match. So if angle A goes with angle M over here, A and M should be in the same position in the name. So list the pairs of congruent angles and congruent sides given the congruent statement that triangle Joe is congruent to triangle Tim. Now it's nice to use names because it helps us keep everything in order. The important thing here is that J goes with T and O goes with I and E goes with M. So angle J is congruent to angle T. Angle O goes with angle I, so angle O is congruent to angle I. Angle E goes with M, so angle E is congruent to angle M. And if I do the sides, you can do the same thing. Go ahead and mark. I like to go from the 1 congruent mark to the 2, 1 to 2. And so I will see that JO goes with TI. They're congruent. And then OE will go with IM. And finally, MT and EJ, both of those go together. Now, finding missing angles and sides, if the polygons are congruent, then you can use the fact that the corresponding angle, you can use the corresponding angle or side to find it. Set the two values to be equal since they are congruent. So just like we've been doing before, if things are congruent, set them equal to each other. So, find the values for the missing sides or lengths given the congruent statement, triangle Jen is congruent to triangle Amy. So first of all, let's go ahead. I know J goes with A. J is a right angle, so I'm just going to draw a right angle on A. So that's part of my information. E goes with M. So since E is 57 degrees, I know M is 57 degrees. Then N goes with Y, which means, well, I have to figure that one out. 57 plus 90, N equals 90, because they're acute. Or you could have done all three angles and said 180. And I get N equals 33. Same thing for the sides. I'm going to start with JE and AM. Mark those congruent. Since AM is 5, JE is 5. EN and MY. Since EN is 13, MY is 13. Then the last but not least, NJ and YA. Both of those are 12 because YA is 12. For our last example, we're going to find the missing side and angles. So we're getting just a little bit more complicated with some variables. So let's start with the angles. So I can see that there's one congruent mark here, 2 there, 1, 2. So this third set here is my third set of congruent angles. So these are how they match. Now the first one is 23, so this one's 23. Then I don't really know much about angle A and angle O, so I'm going to go ahead to angle G and angle T. So 3x plus 7 equals 5x plus 13, and 5x minus 13. Go ahead and solve. Subtract 3x from both sides, and I get 7 equals 2x minus 13. Add 13 to both sides, I get 20 equals 2x, so 10 is 2x. Oops, 10 is x, excuse me. Let me go ahead and fix that. 10 is just x, not 2x. All right, I already divided by 2. And that's what happens when you don't show work every step. And then I'm going to substitute 10 in to the next problem, and I get 37 is the number of degrees in that small angle, so I put 37 in there. Then I can use the triangle sum theorem, which says that all angles in a triangle add up to 180. So I'm going to add 23 plus 37 plus measure of angle A equals 180. Simplify by combining like terms here. So 60 plus measure of angle A equals 180. Subtract 60 from both sides. And we get measure of angle A is 120. So now we found all three angles. Now we're going to go ahead and find all three sides. So I'm going to keep my congruent marks back here on this third angle. And first of all, I can see 11 in this one. Technically, I could just put an 11 there, but I'm going to solve for y because it's sitting there. So I can find out y is 4. Technically, since I didn't ask for y, you didn't have to do it. All right, then the next two, 13 and 13. I went from the 2 to the 3 congruent marks, so there's a 13 up here. Then our last side, there's a 20 here, so that has to be 20. One thing I did forget to write down is the congruent statement. And the congruent statement is, let me make sure I have my little pen. Pen. There we go. I have to go in order. So I'm going to start with the first hash mark. C, it's a triangle, so you draw a triangle. C, A, going to the second one, T, is congruent to angle. The first one with the hash mark is triangle D, O, G. Did you see that one coming? All right, And now for our reflection. How could you relate the corresponding angles created by parallel lines and the transversal to today's lesson? So what do you think? Now that you've seen corresponding angles and sides in polygons, and you had corresponding angles in parallel lines, how would you relate them? How would you describe them? And for my pre-AP extra assignment, go ahead and review examples 3 and 4 in chapter 4-3 so you can get a little practice with proof. What was the final step in proving the triangle's congruent? And I'd like to see that answer in your notes. Thank you.